Greetings, welcome, and thank you for clicking. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, supporting your journey with healing experiences, coaching, and encouragement for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Ask the Stones, offering spiritual guidance and encouragement for life's challenging questions. Welcome to this episode of Ask the Stones. Our question comes from Charlene. Last week, I got into a fight with my sister about her daughter. My 14-year-old niece wears skimpy clothes, and it's getting hot here in Florida. I don't want to spend all summer worrying about her again, but my sister doesn't think there's a problem. How can I convince her that she should be worried too? Charlene, thank you for this question. This is quite an interesting question, and I appreciate you bringing this to Ask the Stones. I have quite a few things to say about this question, Charlene, in this particular situation, but I really want to start with what I think is the most important element of this question, and that is your concern for your niece. You worry about her. It's evident that you love her, that you have concern for her, and that you want what is best for her, or I should say perhaps what you feel is best for her. And so, Charlene, I want to say that I understand that this question is coming from a place of love. I understand that your worry is coming from a place of love for your niece. So thank you for your love for your niece. I think that this question also has in it a concern specifically for your niece's appearance. And I think, Charlene, that you are equating appearance with some concern over negative consequences of that appearance. And, I say that because you say that you are worried about her, and that you think that this is a problem, meaning that you feel that there is a concern about her appearance. I'll say more about that, but I do want to focus on this love for your niece. And I really want to encourage you, Charlene, to pour love into your niece and into your relationship with your niece. So frequently we focus in on what's going wrong rather than what is going right. And we focus in on problems rather than positives. And so I want to encourage you to step back from this situation, to step back from this fight that you've had with your sister and your feelings about your niece's appearance. And I want to encourage you to focus on some of the positives of your relationship with your niece, and even, Charlene, your relationship with your sister. But I really want to encourage you at this time to consider, rather than considering the things that your niece isn't doing right, meaning the clothes that she's wearing, to think about the things that she is doing right and the positives. Maybe your niece is a good student. Maybe she's smart. Maybe she's funny. Maybe she's kind and caring. To consider what those positives are. I think that culturally speaking, we maybe have too much of a tendency to focus on the negatives about each other's appearances, and that we are too quick to criticize the ways in which we look and the ways in which other people maybe dress or adorn themselves, their physical bodies. And so I really want to encourage us to consider that for a moment and to consider all of the ways in which we criticize the appearance of ourselves and one another. I sometimes wonder at animals and how I am not an animal psychologist. I am not an animal psychologist. I am not an animal researcher. But my guess is that animals probably don't criticize each other's appearances in the way that humans do. I have rabbits in my yard, and I can't imagine one of the hares saying to another hare, "Did you see the way that Harriet's fur looked today? Can you believe that? My gosh, that Harriet, she is not taking good care of herself at all." So I doubt that Harriet the Hare is being criticized by her other rabbit friends in the ways that we human beings criticize one another's appearances. So I want to encourage us to consider that for a moment, that we humans really do criticize one another's appearances. The clothes that we wear, the ways in which we adorn our body. Our bodies are too short, too tall, too skinny, too fat, too this, too that. And so I want to encourage you, Charlene, to ask yourself why, to think about the fact that you are focusing on your niece's appearance, and maybe not focusing on things like the ways in which your niece is maybe a good person, a good student, a good kid who is kind and caring and compassionate, and to maybe turn the focus to those positives about your niece rather than the negatives of her appearance, and to comment positively on your niece to your niece rather than negatively about her appearance. And even if you're not saying to your niece, "Oh gosh, are you really going to wear those short shorts? Are you going out in that?" You may not be saying those things to her directly, but people are perceptive, and people can pick up on thoughts and feelings even when we don't express them. And so maybe you're not expressing to your niece directly, but obviously you're expressing it to your sister. And so I'm going to encourage you, Charlene, to consider turning the talk about your niece to the positives about your niece, and to, rather than dwell upon her physical appearance, to consider aspects of her personality and her ways of being and moving in the world, and the positives of the ways in which she does that. Please focus on what she is doing right. I invite you to focus on what she is doing right rather than on what you might perceive that she is doing wrong. Now, again, this concern that you have comes from a place of love and a place of concern for her. And so I'm going to encourage you to explore for yourself your connection between her appearance and consequences of that appearance. And so to you, what does the meaning of, quote, skimpy clothes, what does that mean, and what are the consequences of that in your own mind? And to consider whether there really is a connection between appearance and the consequences that you have in your own mind. Because oftentimes we have a tendency to draw consequences that aren't correct or aren't a direct cause, correlation and causation. Maybe she's wearing certain clothing. Does that automatically lead to the concerns that you have, the worries that you have? So in other words, if you are concerned about certain things that she's wearing, you really want to ask yourself, what is the cause for those concerns, and is that really the result of her choice of clothing? So ask yourself, Charlene, is what I'm afraid of really going to happen just because of the ways in which she chooses to dress? So that's something that I encourage you to consider as well, Charlene. I also encourage you to consider your niece's age. She is 14. And as a 14-year-old, she is finding her way in the world. She is exploring her self-identity. She is exploring her humanness. And she is really growing into who she is as a human. Now, I want to pause here, Charlene, and say that we are all doing this all of the time. So yes, she's 14, and it does not stop at 14. So this is something that we are all always doing. We are all always exploring our identity, growing and changing, transitioning from one self into the next. And so your niece is doing that as well. But oftentimes when we are young is when it is most obvious that people are growing into their identities, simply because they are doing this in ways that we might find curious or concerning. But again, that happens at all phases of life. We just seem to happen to pay more attention to it with young people. So I really want to encourage you to consider where she is at this point in her life. Now, I am not a child psychologist. I am not a licensed mental health professional. And I also have been a teenager, and I also know that 14, at least it was for me, is a challenging age. You've got so much pressure on you to, as you grow into being a human, you're figuring out who you are. Like I said, we are all always still doing that, but it really feels quite pressing as a young person. You are growing, you are becoming a distinct human being separate from who you were as a young child. You are becoming more independent and becoming more, you are accessing more agency and choice, and just growing in all kinds of ways, physically and emotionally, mentally and spiritually too. And so, Charlene, I encourage all of us to consider this age and how challenging it is to be at this age, and all of the pressures that are on us from all sides, friends and school and parents and family members and culture, and on and on and on. Again, these pressures never cease, but I think that they are quite evident when we are at this young age. And I think that really what we need at this time more than anything is love and support and encouragement. Now, again, we need these at all stages of our lives, don't we, Charlene? We all sure do. It's why I am so focused on encouragement, and why it is my life's mission to encourage. But I really believe that young people especially need encouragement. They need support. They need our love. And so, Charlene, I really want to encourage you to, again, pour love into your niece and pour love into your relationship with your niece. Now, Charlene, when I say pour love into this, I don't mean, oh, just love her and then she's going to change and do what you want her to do. No, I don't mean that. I mean, not pouring love into her and the relationship with the motive to change her behavior and make her dress in the ways that you want her to dress, but rather to just simply pour love into her because she deserves it, and to pour love and encouragement and positivity into her because she is a worthy human being. So not doing that with the motive of, oh yes, if I love her, I can influence her and then I can make her change. No, I don't mean that, Charlene. I mean just loving her and just telling her the things that you admire about her, the positives about her, encouraging her, and just simply loving her. You know, Charlene, when it comes to people's appearances, the things that they wear, the ways that they look, we are not always going to agree with other people. And this is just a part of being a human being. Remember, your niece is young, but she's a human being too. She's 14 and she is her own distinct human being. And so, we're going to disagree with one another. This is just simply a part of being a human. And so we may have disagreements about the ways that people choose to adorn themselves, the things that they want to wear. But I do encourage us to really consider what that says about us, rather than what it says about the other person. So, Charlene, to consider what your feelings about what your niece wears says about you, rather than what it says about your niece. So, what do those concerns about, quote, skimpy clothing say about you, rather than what it says about your niece and how she chooses to dress at this time in her life? Again, we are always growing and changing and morphing, and what we might choose to wear right now in our lives may very well, probably, yes, will change, no matter what age we are. And so I encourage you, Charlene, to think about and explore your own feelings about what your niece is wearing and what that says about you. And I do encourage you to consider the love, and put that first and foremost, the love that you have for your niece and the positivity and encouragement and support that she deserves. And I don't want to say regardless of what she wears, because that's putting a qualifier on it. And that's saying, she deserves love despite this. You deserve love despite that. Nope, I recommend taking that despite right off of it. She deserves love. She deserves encouragement. I encourage you to give her that, to build her up rather than tear her down, to send her love rather than a dissatisfaction. And I want to encourage all of us to be doing the same for one another at all times, rather than sending our psychic darts to one another for the ways in which we may dress, or the ways in which our physical body looks, to instead send love and compassion to one another, to send compassion to each other. This is not easy to do. Believe me, it's not easy for me. So it's definitely something that I say and something that I am also working on, because we are all working on this kind of thing all of the time. So, Charlene, I really want to encourage you in this way. Love that niece. Send her positivity. Maybe she is wearing clothes that you don't agree with, but rather than sending energy into the disagreement and into the dissatisfaction with that, I recommend sending energy into exploring why you feel that way into exploring what it means about you and into sending her love and compassion and understanding, support, and always, Charlene, encouragement. Now, I want to address this relationship with your sister because you've asked me, Charlene, how you can convince her that she should be worried too. And your sister is not worried. And so I encourage you to explore the lack of worry from your sister. And rather than exploring that lack of worry with judgment, oh, why is she not worried? She should be worried about this. To rather, again, explore why you are worried. Certainly, your niece loves her, your sister loves her daughter. Certainly, your sister loves your niece. And so I encourage you to consider her lack of worry and why you are worried. And rather than thinking that this worry therefore means love, to think instead from your sister's point of view and maybe why she isn't feeling worried, why it's not a concern, and to think about it from your sister's point of view. Charlene, you ask me how to convince her that she should be worried. And I think that worry is such a curious thing, isn't it? Because worrying for worry's sake really does no good. I think that we have a tendency to think that if we're not worried about something, then we're not going to take care of it. But we rarely think that worrying therefore means that we're going to do something about it. So your question, Charlene, just really asks how you can make your sister worried about this too. And it doesn't ask, hey, how can I get my sister to change my daughter's behavior? So interestingly, Charlene, the focus here is on the worry and getting your sister to worry too, which suggests that maybe your thinking is that if she's worried, therefore she'll take action. But the truth is that just because we worry about something doesn't mean that we're going to take action on it. Or it even doesn't mean that we can take action on it. I might be worried that it's going to rain. As a matter of fact, right now as I'm recording this, it is a gorgeous sunny day where I am. But I might be worried it's going to rain. And I'm going to worry about the rain. And oh, I'm so worried about the rain. What if it rains? Well, I can't do a dang thing about the rain. I have no control over the rain. And so there's nothing that I can do if it is going to rain to stop the rain. And therefore, my worry about the rain does not mean that I am going to take any action on the rain. So Charlene, what I'm saying is that maybe you could convince your sister to be worried, but it doesn't mean that any action is going to be taken. And so just convincing others to worry about something doesn't mean that anything is going to come of that worry. And when we worry about something, it doesn't mean that we are going to take action on that worry. And so worrying for worrying's sake, I don't think is a very productive thing to do energetically, emotionally. And I think that worrying for worrying's sake is maybe a way for us to feel productive when really worry in and of itself is not productive. And we think that, again, well, if I worry, then I'm going to take action and I'm going to do something about it. But as with the rain example, that's not always the case. So it's not even always our ability. So Charlene, I'm going to recommend, I'm going to encourage you to not be worried about making your sister worried and convincing her to be worried. She is not worried. She has her own reasons for not being worried. You are worried, and I encourage you to consider the reasons for your worry. And again, rather than putting energy into the worry, I encourage you to put energy into that beautiful young person, into the love that you have for her, into the support and encouragement, and not in a way that says, oh, honey, I love you. That's why I want you to cover up. Wear your parka in the middle of summer, please, for my sake. I encourage you not to look at it in terms of, I'm going to love her and tell her, I love you, honey, and that's why I want you to change. No, just to love her, just to love that beautiful young person and send her encouragement. With no strings attached, Charlene. No strings about a desire to make her change and to make her see the light and to see her wicked ways and to change her clothes. No, not at all. One more thing I want to say about this, Charlene, before I send Reiki to your relationship with your niece and to your relationship with your sister. One more thing I want to say is that I find it very interesting, culturally speaking. This is a question that you are asking about your niece. No one says, I'm worried about my nephew wearing skimpy clothes. No one says, I'm worried about the way that this young man is attired skimpily. No one says that. And so I think culturally, we really need to take a hard look at the ways in which we look particularly at female appearance, and including, yes, young women's appearance, and that culturally we really need to take a hard look at the ways in which we start criticizing young women's appearances from a very young age, and the damage that does to our young women. And I have to say that right now, Charlene, it actually really makes my heart hurt for our young people. And our young women in particular, and the ways in which we talk about them and to them. And so, Charlene, I really encourage you, and I encourage all of us to look hard at the ways that we talk about one another's appearances and the damage that we do to one another in those ways. Thank you. And so, Charlene, I'm going to send some Reiki to your relationship with your niece, and I'm going to send some Reiki to your relationship with your sister, and I am going to encourage all of us to send love to one another and to work to reduce the negativity that we have around others' appearances and our own appearance. The way others dress, the way that we dress, the way that other people's bodies look, and the way that our bodies look. So, I encourage you to take a moment. We're going to take 3 deep cleansing breaths, Charlene. Now, as I send Reiki, of course, as always, if you want the Reiki to go to you, wonderful. It will go to you. If you don't want it to go to you, don't worry. It will not go. But let us please take 3 deep cleansing breaths. Thank you, Charlene. And Charlene, as I sent Reiki, I had a vision of a crown being placed on your niece's head. And I encourage you to picture her as the queen that she is, as the princess that she is, as the goddess that she is, and to send loving energy to that. I encourage you to picture her with a crown on her head and to treat her as that royal being that she is. And may we all be treated as the royal beings that we are. And may we all treat one another as the royal beings that we are. And so, Charlene, I'm going to draw a card for you. I have the Archangel deck in my hand. And so let's draw a card and see what kind of messages we might have from the angels. Here we go. This just fell out. Wow. Thank you, Archangel Shamuel. It is peace. Peace comes from remembering that only love is real. Yes, thank you, angels. I believe, Charlene, you are encouraged to be experiencing, feeling, striving for peace in this situation, to make peace with the way in which your niece chooses to dress, to make peace with the way that your sister does or does not feel about the way that your niece dresses, to make peace with your relationship with your niece and with your sister, and to just make peace with your own feelings about this situation. So yes, peace. That is the perfect message for us and for all of us right now when it comes to this kind of situation. So many thanks, Charlene, for this question. Many thanks to all of those listening. I send you love and light and blessings. I send you peace for all of your worries. Remember, many times we worry about things that we have no control over. And many times we worry about things just for the sake of worrying. And we don't take any action on our worries. And that is really, in that case, there is no use for the worry. Worry serves no purpose. And so I encourage you to let go of your worries and to turn them into feelings of peace. Thank you, Charlene, so much. Many blessings to you, blessings to all. I welcome you to join me on Facebook. I have started a brand new group called Encouraging Your Journey, focused on offering encouragement through life's changes, challenges, and transitions, because I have a passionate belief that we need more encouragement of one another in this world. And so, Charlene, I encourage you to send encouragement to that niece, and I encourage all of us to send encouragement to each other. Again, I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, encouraging your journey with card reading, Reiki, and coaching for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Blessings and best wishes for your journey. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ask the Stones. If you have a question for Ask the Stones, please send me an email at christian@standingstoneshealing.com or connect with me on Facebook at Standing Stones Healing. Thank you, and best wishes for your journey.